Welcome back. Dale Myers with Student Advance. In this video, we're going to be discussing multiplying and dividing by powers of 10. We're going to give you a quick foundation and a shortcut to help you become a professional in solving these problems. So let's start with what we do know how to do. So multiplying by powers of 10. Well, let's start with just simple multiplication. 5 times 1 is 5. You know this. 5 times 10 is 50. You probably know that. 5 times 100 is 500. 5 times 1,000 is, of course, 5,000. Now, why am I going through telling you something you already know? Well, notice that when I multiplied it by 10, 10 has 1 0. And so 5, we just added 1 extra 0 to 5 and it became 50. And then when we multiply by 100, which has 2 zeros, we took 5 and stuck 2 zeros next to it. Same thing with 1,000, 3 zeros. We took 5 and stuck 3 zeros next to it. That's what we're really doing is just moving a decimal over. Let's take another look at that. Or let's take a quick look at that on our next slide. All right. So 5, let's, instead of writing it as 5, let's write it as 5.0. Well, 5.0 times 1 is simply 5, or 5.0. Now, well, first, I hope you recall that 5 and 5 is the same as 5.0. They mean the same thing, okay? So they mean the exact same thing here. Make sure that is a decimal point there. So 5 times 10, we know is 50. So we just wrote it as 5.0 times 10. But how do we get there? When multiplying by a power of 10, we simply take our decimal, 5.0. 10 has 1 0. So I moved it 1 decimal place to the right. And instead of 5.0, I moved it 1 decimal place. It's now 50.0. Well, then when we get to 100, well, again, 100 has 2 zeros, so it is 5.0. Move that decimal place 1, 2 spaces, and then we stick in another 0 for that empty decimal place. So that's why we get 500 right here, okay? 500 is the same as 500.0, all right? Does that make sense? Here we go with 1,000. We do the same thing with 1,000. At 1,000, we have 3 zeros, so we take that decimal and we move it 1, 2, 3. So I kind of got a little ahead of myself. I went ahead and put in my zeros there, so sorry about that. But you get the point by now. All you're doing when multiplying by powers of 10, you're simply sliding your decimal place by how many zeros are in that power of 10. Okay, so let's get a little practice here. Let me save. I'm gonna clear this, get a little practice. All right, pause the video and you work on, actually, let's do the first one together. And then I'll ask you to pause the video and do the last two. So 319. First thing I need for you to understand is that 319 has a decimal. I'm just going to rewrite it as 319.0. That's the same as 319. Well, 10 has 1 decimal place. So I'm going to move my decimal 1 time and stick it right here. Well, that's now my new decimal place. So my answer is 319 times 10. I'm just rewriting it. 3,190, and I'm gonna still stick in my 0.0. You don't really have to, as long as it's a 0. All right. So now pause the video, get you some practice multiplying by a power of 10. I'll be here waiting, I promise. All right. Let's see. Now here we are. Let's work here. We have the number 4.18 times 100. 100 has 2 zeros in it. So we're just going to rewrite 4.18 and we're going to move our decimal 2 places over, giving us 418.0, or just 418. Hopefully you got that answer. 1,000 has 3 zeros in it. So we're going to take our number and move it 1, 2, 3. And my new number is going to be 3, 2, 8, 9. My decimal is in between the 5 and the 3. So 3,289.53 would be my answer. Questions? Well, by the way, if you go to studentadvance.com, there is a worksheet that you can practice multiplying and dividing by powers of 10. So you can go ahead and do that. By the way, please thumbs up, like the video, and share it with someone. We're not done yet, so let's continue here. All right, next up, dividing. Well, we know that, let's go back for a second. We moved to the right because the numbers got bigger. I multiplied it by 1,000, so of course our numbers got bigger, right? And then that's what we did in our first example. But when we divide, our numbers get smaller. Instead of moving to the right with our decimal, when we divide, we're going to go the opposite, which is division is the opposite of multiplication. So instead of moving to the right, we're going to move to the left. So that's what you're going to see here. 850 divided by 1 is simply 850. Now, I'm going to kind of write this in there. Remember, we could write that as 850.0 if we wanted to, right? 850 divided by 10, excuse me, 850.0 divided by 10. Well, 10 has 1 0, so I'm going to move that 1 decimal place over to the left, and that gives me 85.0, or 85. That's how that came up. Same thing here. There are 2 decimals here. So we're going to move, we'll stick a decimal right there and move it 2 places, making it 8.5. I think you're seeing the pattern. In the bottom, we have 1, 2, 3 decimals. So we take 850. We stick a decimal here, 850.0, and we move it 1, 2, 3 places to give us 0.85. Or now you may write it as 0.850. So here's the point. 0.85 is the same as 0.850 for most applications. Now, when you take physics and chemistry, we start talking about significant figures that might matter, but for most of our purposes, these numbers are the same. All right. So that being stated, let's get a little practice dividing by powers of 10. Here we go. Just as before, I want you to pause the video and work these problems. All right. 3.57 divided by 100. Well, we know, once again, this is kind of straightforward. 3.57. We have 1, 2 zeros, so we're going to move it 1, 2 places to the left. We have to stick in a 0 for our empty spot. Our new number is 0.0357. Similarly, in the next one, we have 3 zeros here, so we're going to move this decimal 1, 2, 3 places, fill in our missing zeros. So we got a missing 0 here and here. Our new number is 0.000, because we still have that 0 right here. Okay. And then there's another 0 right in front of 0, 2, 8. And finally, the last one, kind of easy. 2984. 2984. We stick a decimal here. That's 2,984. Divided by 10, 1 decimal place. We move it 1 decimal over. It becomes 298.4. Simple. So when we're multiplying, we're getting bigger. So we're going to move our decimal to the right. When we are dividing, we're getting smaller. So we move our decimal to the left. And that's what our summary slide says, guys. When multiplying, the numbers get bigger, so we move our decimal to the right. When we're dividing, our numbers get smaller, we move to the left. So dividing, opposite of multiplication, so we move the opposite direction. Kind of straightforward. Again, guys, if you need more practice, go to www.studentadvance.com. There are some free worksheets and some other resources, actually some helpful packets that cover this, as well as percents, fractions, a lot of other things. We are here to help you as a student. Parents, we're here to help you shape the student to be their best possible version of themselves. I'm Dale Myers with Student Advance. Take care, guys. It's always a pleasure.